Imagine a simple, natural ingredient, something you probably have in your kitchen right now. What if I told you it holds the potential for a really profound and measurable impact on a huge health challenge, something that could genuinely help manage a condition affecting millions, and with, well, surprisingly strong results? Today, we're doing a deep dive into some really compelling research about a common spice, ginger. Our mission here is to unpack the hard science behind these findings, look at the actual numbers, try to understand how such a, humble ingredient can be so effective, and talk about what it might mean for you. Get ready for some insightful takeaways.
Yeah, and what's really noteworthy here, I think, is that we're looking at robust scientific studies, the kind that give us real confidence in the findings. We'll be kind of connecting the dots between maybe ancient wisdom and cutting-edge clinical trials.
Okay, so let's get into what the research actually suggests. Picture this: a small capsule taken just twice a day. If you're a type 2 diabetes patient, the studies we're exploring indicate it could help reduce your HbA1c, that's your average blood sugar, over the last few months.
Right, that 2 to 3 month average.
Exactly. Reduce that by a notable 13.11% in just 12 weeks.
13% is, yeah.
And it doesn't stop there with the HbA1c. This same substance also showed potential to decrease insulin resistance by a really significant 58%.
Wow, 58%.
Yeah, which means your body's cells get much better at using insulin. So consequently, the amount of insulin your body actually needs to produce could drop by about 45%. And beyond just the blood sugar stuff, it also showed strong reductions in inflammation throughout the body.
Those are really striking figures. I mean, just to put that 13% HbA1c reduction in context, doing that in 3 months, that's a very substantial shift. Often, comparable to what you might see with certain medications, let alone just adding something natural to your diet. It's a level of impact that really makes you pay attention.
Definitely. And these aren't just like compelling numbers from stories people tell.
Yeah.
The researchers specifically used methods that are considered the gold standard in medical research. We're talking about clinical trials, randomized studies, the strongest proof available.
The gold standard.
The main study we're really focusing on today is titled "The Effect of Ginger Consumption on Glycemic Control Profile and Inflammatory Markers in Type 2 Diabetes Mellitus Patients." So its specific aim was to understand how ginger impacts blood sugar indicators and inflammation in people already diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
And what makes this research particularly valuable, I think, is the careful selection of who they studied and what they measured. That combination ensures the results are both relevant, to real people and robust scientifically.
Right. So let's talk about who was studied first. The study was quite precise about its participants, which helps us understand who these findings might apply to. They recruited adults aged between 30 and 70 years old, all of whom had an existing diagnosis of type 2 diabetes.
Okay, so a fairly broad age range, but all with the condition.
Exactly. And crucially, these individuals were already on oral diabetes medication, and they kept taking their prescribed medication consistently through the whole study.
That's important. So it's an add-on effect they're looking for.
Precisely. Their HbA1c levels were between 7% and 10%, which is considered elevated. And their body mass index, the BMI, varied from 20 to 35. So that means the group included people across healthy weight, overweight, and obese categories.
Right. And thinking about why those specific demographics, it's insightful. By including patients already on meds with a range of BMIs, the study aimed to see ginger's effect in a real-world situation, not just in some perfectly controlled lab condition. It speaks to the practical side of things.
Makes sense. Okay, so what do they actually measure?
The metrics.
Yeah, before and after the experiment and between the groups, they took a whole bunch of measurements, very comprehensive. They tracked key sugar indicators like fasting blood sugar, that HbA1c we mentioned, the amount of insulin the body secreted, and insulin resistance. But it wasn't just about sugar.
No, they went broader.
They did. They also looked at lipid profiles. That's basically the fats in your blood. So triglycerides, total cholesterol, the good cholesterol HDL, and the bad cholesterol LDL.
All the usual suspects for cardiovascular risk.
Exactly. And vital for overall health, they measured inflammation markers too, like CRP and prostaglandins.
Right. CRP, C-reactive protein, that's a really common marker for general inflammation. And prostaglandins are compounds directly involved in the inflammatory response itself. Measuring such a wide range like that lets researchers see not just the direct effect on blood sugar, but also the wider systemic effects. Things like cardiovascular risk and chronic inflammation, which are often tangled up with diabetes. It gives you that holistic view, which is essential.
Okay, so with results as compelling, the big question is always, how did they make sure it was really the ginger doing this? Not just a placebo effect or some kind of bias.
The study design, yeah.
Crucial. And they used a really strong design here, a randomized double-blind study.
Well, GATA standard again.
Right. So what that means is that the participants were randomly put into one of two groups. And here's the clever bit. Neither the participants nor the researchers knew who was getting what.
That's a double-blind part. Takes out expectation bias from both sides.
Exactly. They used two types of capsules that looked identical. One group got the ginger capsules, 0.8 grams of ginger per capsule. They took one before lunch, one before dinner. So that's 1.6 grams of ginger per day total.
Got 1.6 grams daily.
The other group got a placebo capsule. It looked the same but contained something inactive, like maybe bran or flour, also totaling 1.6 grams per day. And this highly controlled setup went on for 12 weeks.
Yeah, and that randomized double-blind design is, well, it's unequivocally the strongest type of clinical evidence you can get. It really does effectively eliminate bias. So we can be pretty confident that any differences they saw are genuinely down to the ginger. Not just wishful thinking or psychological effects. It's a rigorous approach.
Definitely rigorous.
Yeah.
So after those 12 weeks of consistent intake, what were the actual outcomes, the tangible results? Well, in the ginger group, they were quite impressive. Their fasting blood sugar dropped by 6.9%.
Okay.
And their HbA1c, that long-term marker, saw an even bigger decrease, 13.11%.
13% again, yeah. Significant.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The amount of insulin their bodies needed to secrete went down by about 45%.
45% less insulin needed.
And insulin resistance plummeted by 58%, almost a 60% improvement in just 12 weeks.
Wow, that's huge for insulin resistance.
It is. And the benefits went beyond blood sugar, too. Their triglycerides decreased by 24.3%. Even their LDL, the bad cholesterol, saw an 8.2% reduction.
Nice.
And on top of all that, those inflammation markers we talked about also showed strong decreases.
These aren't just tiny improvements. These are substantial shifts in key health indicators. It really points to a very powerful effect on overall metabolic health. And when you think about how interconnected all these markers are in something like type 2 diabetes, these broad benefits are particularly significant.
Absolutely. And to really appreciate the power of the ginger here, we need to compare it directly to the placebo group, right?
The comparison is key.
The differences were really clear. For example, the ginger group's reduction in fasting blood sugar was over 150%, actually 156.9% greater than the change seen in the placebo group.
So far beyond any minor fluctuation.
Way beyond. And for HbA1c, the ginger group showed a 350% greater reduction compared to placebo.
350%. That's massive.
It really highlights ginger's active biological role.
Yeah, that comparison really underscores the idea that ginger, as a natural compound, is truly exerting some significant biological activity. It's not just providing a mild, maybe negligible benefit, which naturally leads us to wonder, okay, how exactly is ginger doing this at a cellular level?
Right. It's one thing to see these impressive results, but quite another to understand how a simple spice actually pulls it off. The research points to a couple of key mechanisms.
Okay.
First, it seems ginger reduces the absorption of glucose, sugar, in our digestive system.
How does it do that?
Well, it seems to inhibit certain enzymes, specifically amylase and glucosidase. These are the enzymes responsible for breaking down complex carbs into simple sugars so they can be absorbed into the bloodstream.
So it slows down that breakdown process.
Exactly. By slowing their action, less sugar gets into your bloodstream quickly, and maybe more just passes through the system.
Interesting. Okay, that's one mechanism. What else?
Second, and this is perhaps even more profound, ginger seems to significantly increase insulin sensitivity.
Right, the other side of the coin.
Precisely. It means your body's cells become much more responsive to the insulin you do produce. And as a direct result, the body doesn't need to pump out as much insulin to manage blood sugar, which ties directly back to those big drops we saw in insulin secretion and resistance.
So that multifaceted approach is really a key takeaway here. By hitting both how much sugar gets in and how efficiently our cells use insulin, ginger seems to tackle diabetes from multiple angles, which probably explains why the effects are so comprehensive across all those different markers.
It's a lot of sense when you put it like that. Okay, so practical takeaways. What does all this mean for you, the listener, if you want to maybe apply this knowledge? How can you actually use ginger based on these findings?
Yeah, the so what part.
Right. The study mainly used ginger in capsule form, and you can find supplements like that widely available. If you're considering them, it's probably important to check the concentration, make sure you're getting a meaningful dose, something like the 1.6 grams per day used in the study.
Good point about checking the dose.
But there are a couple of important caveats, some things to consider. If you have stomach ulcers or other serious GI issues, you should probably check with your doctor first. Ginger could potentially irritate those conditions for some people.
Right. It can be a bit spicy for some stomachs.
And also, if you're currently taking blood-thinning medications, things like aspirin or warfarin, it's really crucial to talk to your doctor. Ginger can also have some mild blood-thinning properties itself, so there could be an interaction there.
Definitely a conversation for the doctor in those cases.
But outside of those specific situations, natural ginger is generally considered pretty safe for most people.
Okay.
And the good news is, you probably don't have to rely just on capsules. The research implies that consuming ginger in its natural form, like whether you brew it as a hot tea, grate it into juices or smoothies, add it to soups, stir fries, other dishes, that can also contribute to similar beneficial results. Because at the end of the day, it's the active compounds within the ginger that are doing the work.
Yeah, that accessibility is such a crucial point. Clinical trials often use specific standardized forms, for consistency. But the underlying principle here suggests that just incorporating ginger into your daily diet through natural ways is a totally viable and frankly often quite pleasant option for many people. It definitely encourages a broader look at integrating natural compounds more, holistically into our wellness routines.
So there you have it. This deep dive has really shown us that a common natural ingredient like ginger, when backed by rigorous science, holds significant promise. Promise for helping manage type 2 diabetes and improving those related health markers like cholesterol and inflammation.
We've definitely explored the compelling numbers, we've gained some insight into the precise mechanisms at play, and we've looked at that careful research design that gives us confidence in these findings. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that sometimes really profound solutions can be found in the simplest, most accessible places.
It really is. And what's truly thought-provoking is thinking about the broader potential. For such an accessible and historically valued remedy.
So here's a question for you to maybe mull over as you reflect on this deep dive. Given how widespread type 2 diabetes is globally and the daily reliance on medications for so many, could thoughtfully incorporating natural remedies like ginger, especially when they're backed by such strong evidence, represent a significant accessible shift in health management strategies for potentially millions of people worldwide? What stands out most to you from everything we've discussed today?